talk too much recently, so I'm not going to say much more. But as how many people in the room have never heard me talk about recycling? Have not heard me talk about recycling. Okay, then I'm going to talk about recycling. Okay, so the upstream end of what Stephen just talked about is how can stuff possibly get into your well water? And there are many ways, but first it has to be produced as stuff. And the stuff is what I refer to as waste fluids. The industry seems to want to talk about flowback fluids and produced water. And I have a profound objection to the use of the name water, because water is H2O. And what comes up is not just H2O. So when the industry started commercial developing in Pennsylvania and West Virginia 3 years ago, recycling was not on their radar screen. Certainly not on the commercial end. Back in the research labs at Halliburton, Schlumberger, BJ Services, there were people thinking, you know, sooner or later they're going to catch up to us. And we better figure out how to recycle a lot of this stuff, because this isn't the Wild West. Okay, we're not going to be able to get away with murder like they did out in Wyoming and Colorado. So starting about a year ago, I started listening to industry websites and reading industry trade journals and seeing this recycling. Sometimes the word reuse is used. And what the industry would have us believe today, literally, and I'll show you some examples, is that the problem of disposal of waste fluids from high volume, hydraulic fracturing in tight shales is solved. That it's over. The problem is done. So this is one of my favorite quotes over the last month. I sat in the Chesapeake home offices outside of Towanda about a month ago and had a vice president of Chesapeake say to my face, well, first I asked him this question: are you telling me that not one drop of fresh water that you bring to a Chesapeake well pad ever leaves that pad as waste fluid? And he said, that's right. We have 100% recycling. Okay, now he was a vice president for public relations, so I give him cut him some slack. He probably doesn't understand chemistry and technology and the fact that you can't have perpetual motion, which is the equivalent of what he's talking about. So I thought I'd show you some, just a few slides. I promise I won't take more than a total of 5 more minutes here, and tell you where the industry itself claims it is. So I'm going to use the industry's words. I have to put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. I became very concerned about seeing various media coming from the industry. And this is the issue. What do they do with all the waste fluids? You know what they do in Pennsylvania. They can't do this in New York. They have to use tankage unless they decide to band together 2 or more pads. In this case, then they can do this. That's what's happening in Pennsylvania now. Very, very large waste lagoons. To hold the stuff temporarily while they figure out what to do with it. So let me show you some of the words that I got. So these are direct quotes in red. February of this year, the West Virginia Oil and Natural Gas Association Executive Director, everybody and his brother is trying to come up with 11 herbs and spices. Halliburton, number 2, we're still in the infancy of trying to figure out how to recycle the water. Let's go to Chesapeake. This is off their website. There has been some success in recycling the first 5% of produced water during flowback operations. The majority, 95% of the produced water returned from the well with its high salt content is too saturated to make recycling currently economically viable. Okay, one other item here. So the American Petroleum Institute is the voice of the industry. So the American Petroleum Institute, let me remember what page I'm on here, 32, just recently, in fact, June of 2010, issued its API guidance document on hydraulic fracturing /2, water management associated with hydraulic fracturing. Let me tell you what this industry Bible says about reuse and recycling. Excuse me as I scroll back down. Oops. Yeah, here we go. Injection wells, wastewater treatment plants, industrial waste treatment facilities. These are all the ways that they can possibly get rid of it. Oh, fracture, flowback water, recycling, and reuse. So this is the sum of the experience of the industry in figuring out how to recycle or reuse so-called produced water or flowback water. And I'm just going to read the last paragraph because this is June 2010. A number of treatment approaches exist. Many others are being developed and modified to address the specific treatment needs of flowback water in different operating regions. Processes that can be utilized for water treatment include but are not limited to filtration, aeration, sedimentation, biological treatment, demineralization, 10 to 12 special spices, thermal distillation, condensation, reverse osmosis, ionization, natural evaporation, freeze-thaw, crystallization, and ozonation. This is by no means an exhaustive list, and new alternatives are continuously being considered and evaluated. Operators, Chesapeake, Halliburton, etc., are encouraged to keep abreast of new developments in this field.
What is this? What is this taken from?
Hold on.
Is this on their website?
It's the API Guidance Document HF2, first edition, June 2010, Water Management Associated with Hydraulic Fracking. Same industry statement. So the point I'm making is if you go to industry in depth right now where they're criticizing gas land, they make a statement that up to 60% of the stuff is being recycled. If you talk to the vice president of Chesapeake, 100% is being recycled. This document says it's in research and development. Halliburton's website says we're new to this. Chesapeake's website says, well, we can treat the first 5%, but the other 95% we need to put someplace.